The F-22 Raptors appeared like ghosts against the dawn sky, their angular silhouettes cutting through morning mist as they maintained perfect formation 3,000 feet above the Colorado Rockies. Inside the lead aircraft, Major Alina Nightfall Vasquez pressed her lips against the oxygen mask, watching the GPS coordinates flicker on her heads-up display. Below, a small cabin sat nestled among towering pines, smoke curling lazily from its chimney. The woman they were looking for had been sleeping by that window for the past 6 hours. Nightfall, this is tower control. Target is confirmed visual at grid reference 77 Alpha. Maintain altitude and await further instructions. The radio crackled with static, but the voice was unmistakably tense. Colonel Martinez never sounded nervous unless something was seriously wrong. Alina adjusted her grip on the stick, feeling the Raptor respond to her slightest touch. 23 years in the Air Force had taught her to read situations like this, when a simple extraction mission required 4 of the military's most advanced fighters. Someone important was either in grave danger or had become grave danger themselves. The briefing had been unusually sparse. Find Dr. Rebecca Phoenix Chen. Establish visual contact. Do not engage unless directly threatened. The lack of details gnawed at Alina's trained instincts. Phoenix Control, Nightfall here. Visual confirmed on cabin structure. No movement detected from target. Alina's voice carried the calm professionalism that had earned her the reputation as the squadron's steadiest pilot, even when her male counterparts initially dismissed her as diversity higher decoration. That was before she'd outflown every one of them in combat simulations and earned her wings in actual combat over Syria. Dr. Chen had been off the grid for 72 hours. The astrophysicist and former Air Force captain had disappeared from Cheyenne Mountain's NORAD facility with classified materials that could compromise national security. But Alina knew Chen's service record, Medal of Honor recipient, 3 combat tour, sterling reputation. Something didn't add up. The cabin's front door opened slowly. A woman emerged, stretching in the morning light, completely unaware of the 4 fighter jets circling overhead like mechanical hawks. She was tall, wearing faded jeans and a flannel shirt, her dark hair catching sunlight. Alina zoomed in through her targeting system, studying the woman's face. Even from this distance, something seemed wrong. The woman moved with purpose, but her body language suggested exhaustion rather than the alertness of someone evading capture. Control target has emerged from structure. She appears calm, maybe too calm. Alina frowned, watching Dr. Chen walk toward what looked like an old radio antenna setup behind the cabin. Control, are we certain about our intelligence on this one? Static filled the radio for several long seconds. When Colonel Martinez finally responded, his voice carried a weight Alina had never heard before. Nightfall, you need to understand something about Phoenix. What she took from NORAD. It wasn't stolen. It was taken to prevent something catastrophic. Dr. Rebecca Chen, call sign Phoenix, had always been different. Even during her academy years at Colorado Springs, she possessed an unsettling ability to see patterns others missed, in weather systems, in enemy flight formations, in the seemingly random movements of celestial bodies. Her fellow cadets initially viewed her intense focus and unconventional thinking as arrogance. They mocked her habit of staring at star charts during free time, calling her space cadet, and questioning whether she belonged in a fighter cockpit. But ridicule turned to respect during her first combat deployment over Afghanistan. Flying an F-16 Fighting Falcon, Chen had single-handedly identified and neutralized a Taliban surface-to-air missile installation that conventional reconnaissance had missed. She'd noticed subtle electromagnetic anomalies in her instruments, traced them to their source, and called in precision strikes that saved dozens of American lives. Her commanding officer recommended her for immediate transfer to the Pentagon's Classified Aerospace Research Division. Chen's transition from combat pilot to astrophysicist wasn't unusual. The Air Force frequently recruited its brightest pilots for specialized scientific roles. What was unusual was her insistence on maintaining flight status while pursuing her doctorate in theoretical physics. She'd fly experimental aircraft on weekdays and analyze deep space telemetry on weekends, often working 18-hour days without complaint. Alina remembered meeting Chen briefly at a Women in Aviation symposium 3 years earlier. Even then, Chen had seemed distracted, frequently checking her watch and scanning the sky through conference room windows. She'd mentioned working on temporal anomalies and predictive modeling for atmospheric disturbances, but Alina had assumed it was typical military research jargon. Nightfall, this is Phoenix Control. Dr. Chen has been tracking an unidentified orbital object for the past 8 months. Her calculations indicate potential collision trajectory with Earth within the next 48 hours. She removed the data because someone at NORAD was planning to suppress her findings. Alina felt ice form in her stomach. Through her scope, she watched Dr. Chen connecting cables to the radio antenna, her movements precise and urgent. Control, what kind of object are we talking about? Unknown composition, approximately 2 kilometers in diameter. Chen believes it's artificial, possibly extraterrestrial in origin. Her models show impact probability of 93% somewhere over the Pacific Northwest. The formation of F-22s maintained their circle above the cabin, but Alina's worldview was rapidly reshaping itself around this new information. Below, Dr. Chen had activated her radio equipment and was speaking into a handheld microphone, apparently trying to contact someone. Alina switched to the emergency frequency Chen might be using. Static filled her headset, then a clear female voice. "This is Dr. Rebecca Chen, former captain, United States Air Force, serial number 0779421 Alpha. If anyone is receiving this transmission, please be advised that Earth faces imminent impact from an unidentified object of non-terrestrial origin. Impact estimated in approximately 41 hours, 17 minutes. Military leadership has been compromised. Repeat, military leadership has been compromised." Alina's training took over even as her mind reeled. She switched back to command frequency. "Phoenix Control, I'm receiving transmissions from the target. She's broadcasting warnings about the incoming object. Control, I need clarification on our mission parameters immediately." The radio remained silent for nearly 30 seconds. When Colonel Martinez finally responded, his voice sounded decades older than it had moments earlier. "Nightfall, you're not going to like what I have to tell you. Dr. Chen discovered that certain elements within the Pentagon have known about this object for weeks. They've been planning to evacuate key personnel to underground facilities while maintaining public ignorance." Alina watched Dr. Chen through her targeting system, seeing her not as a rogue scientist but as a woman trying to save the world. "Control, what are our actual orders regarding Phoenix?" "Official orders are to bring her back for debriefing. Unofficial reality is that some very powerful people want her silenced permanently." The colonel's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Alina, I've known you since you were a lieutenant. I need you to use your judgment on this one." The weight of the moment settled on Alina's shoulders like a lead blanket. 4 of America's most advanced fighters circled above a woman whose only crime was trying to prevent a global catastrophe. Alina thought about her own daughter, probably getting ready for school right now, completely unaware that her world might end in less than 2 days. Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the emergency frequency again. "This is Phoenix calling any station. I have complete trajectory analysis and impact modeling. The object will strike approximately 200 miles northwest of Seattle. Estimated casualties in the millions if population centers are not evacuated immediately." Alina made her decision. "Phoenix Control, Nightfall requesting permission to land and establish direct communication with the target." Negative Nightfall, maintain altitude and observe only. "Control, with respect, someone needs to verify Dr. Chen's calculations. If she's correct about this object, We're wasting precious time. If she's wrong, we can prove it and resolve this situation properly." Alina didn't wait for authorization. She broke formation and began her descent toward a small clearing approximately half a mile from the cabin. Her wingmen maintained position, but she could hear urgent radio chatter between the other pilots in command. As her landing gear deployed, Alina caught sight of Dr. Chen running toward the clearing, carrying what appeared to be a laptop computer and several thick folders. The F-22 touched down on uneven ground with Alina's characteristic precision. She kept the engines running protocol for potentially hostile situations, but opened her canopy as Dr. Chen approached. The scientist's face showed exhaustion and determination in equal measure, but no fear. "Major, I assume you're here to arrest me," Dr. Chen called out over the engine noise. "But before you do, please look at this data. 40 hours and 33 minutes. That's all we have." Alina removed her helmet, her auburn hair catching mountain sunlight. "Dr. Chen, I'm Major Alina Vasquez. I've been ordered to bring you back for debriefing, but I need to understand what we're dealing with first. Show me what you've got." Dr. Chen approached the aircraft, her scientific mind apparently overriding any concern about the weapon systems pointed in her direction. She held up the laptop screen, showing a complex orbital trajectory diagram. "This object appeared 8 months ago beyond Neptune's orbit. It's been accelerating toward Earth in a pattern that defies all known physics. Look at these velocity measurements." Alina studied the data, her academy training in aerospace engineering allowing her to understand the basics. The numbers were impossible. The object was accelerating without any apparent propulsion system, maintaining perfect trajectory corrections that suggested intelligence rather than natural phenomena. "Dr. Chen, assuming this data is accurate, why hasn't NASA made this public?" "Because NASA doesn't know. The object is only detectable through classified military satellites equipped with specific sensor arrays. And when I tried to alert my superiors at NORAD, I was told the matter was being handled through appropriate channels." Dr. Chen's voice carried a bitterness Alina recognized, the frustration of a competent professional being dismissed by bureaucrats. Alina keyed her radio. "Phoenix Control, I need to speak with Colonel Martinez directly. Encryption priority Alpha." After several seconds, the colonel's voice came through clearly. "Go ahead, Nightfall." "Sir, Dr. Chen has shown me preliminary data that supports her claims. This object appears genuine, and the timeline is critical. I recommend we establish a secure communication link and get this information to the appropriate scientific authorities immediately." "Major Vasquez, your orders are to return Dr. Chen for debriefing. The data will be analyzed through proper channels." Alina looked at Dr. Chen, seeing herself reflected in the scientist's eyes, another competent woman being dismissed by a system that valued protocol over results. "Colonel, with all due respect, proper channels are what created this situation. If Dr. Chen is correct, we don't have time for bureaucracy." Dr. Chen stepped closer to the aircraft. "Major, there's something else. The object isn't just heading for Earth, it's adjusting its trajectory in real time to compensate for our planet's orbital motion. This isn't a random asteroid or comet. This is something that wants to find us." Alina felt a chill that had nothing to do with mountain air. She'd flown combat missions over hostile territory, faced surface-to-air missiles and enemy fighters, but the idea of something intelligently hunting Earth triggered primal fears she'd never experienced. "Dr. Chen, what do your models show for impact effects?" "Complete devastation of the Pacific Northwest. Tsunamis affecting the entire Pacific Rim. Atmospheric debris creating a nuclear winter effect lasting potentially years." Dr. Chen's voice remained clinically precise, but Alina could see the weight of knowledge in her eyes. "Major, I didn't steal this data to commit treason. I took it because someone has to warn people. Families deserve time to say goodbye." Alina made the second crucial decision of her career. Phoenix Control, I'm declaring an emergency situation under Section 7 of the Military Aviation Safety Code. I'm taking Dr. Chen to Peterson Air Force Base for immediate consultation with Space Command authorities. Negative Nightfall. Return to base immediately with the package. Control, I'm invoking emergency protocols. This conversation is being recorded for subsequent review. Elena looked at Dr. Chen. Get in. We're going to make some people very uncomfortable. Dr. Chen climbed into the F-22's second seat, securing herself with practiced efficiency that reminded Elena of the scientist's own military background. As they lifted off, Elena noticed the other three Raptors maintaining formation but not pursuing. Her wingmen were apparently as confused by the situation as she was. Dr. Chen, I need you to understand something. If your data is wrong, I've just ended my military career for nothing. If it's right, I might be ending everyone's career permanently. Call me Phoenix, Major, and thank you for listening. Most people stopped listening to me weeks ago. As the F-22 climbed toward cruising altitude, Elena reflected on the strange turns her career had taken. 23 years of following orders, and now she was potentially defying direct commands to help save the world. Phoenix, tell me about your call sign. How'd you get that name? Dr. Chen was quiet for several moments, watching the Colorado landscape scroll past below them. It was during my third tour in Afghanistan. My wingman was shot down behind enemy lines, aircraft completely destroyed. Everyone assumed he was dead, but I kept monitoring emergency frequencies, and 3 days later I picked up his survival beacon. Command said it was too dangerous to attempt rescue, too many SAM sites, too much enemy activity. Elena adjusted their heading toward Peterson Air Force Base, but she was listening intently. I went anyway, flew a solo mission at night, using terrain masking to avoid radar detection. Found my wingman, but he was badly injured and surrounded by Taliban forces. I couldn't land, so I did something they don't teach at the academy. I used my aircraft as a weapon, making low passes to scatter the enemy forces while broadcasting false radio communications to make them think reinforcements were coming. Did it work? For about an hour, but more enemy forces kept arriving, and my fuel was running low. So I did the only thing I could think of. I ejected my external fuel tanks over the enemy positions and ignited them with cannon fire. Created a massive fireball that cleared a landing zone and convinced the Taliban they were under major air attack. Elena smiled despite the gravity of their current situation. Let me guess, you rose from the flames to save your wingman. Something like that. By the time rescue helicopters arrived, I'd been on the ground for 6 hours, holding off enemy forces with just my sidearm and emergency flares. My wingman survived. The incident report called it rising from the ashes of impossible circumstances. Phoenix stuck. And now you're trying to rise from the ashes again. Except this time, it's the whole world that needs saving. Major, I've spent 8 months watching this object approach Earth. I've run every calculation, consulted with astrophysicists around the world through back channels, even reached out to international space agencies. Everyone who's seen the data agrees this isn't natural, and it's coming whether we're ready or not. Peterson Air Force Base appeared on the horizon, its runways and facilities sprawling across the Colorado plains like a geometric pattern imposed on natural landscape. Elena requested immediate landing clearance, citing emergency protocols and priority classification. The control tower's response was swift and efficient. Within minutes, they were on final approach. Phoenix, when we land, there are going to be a lot of people asking questions. Some of them might not be interested in hearing your answers. I need to know, are you prepared for what comes next? Dr. Chen secured her laptop and research files, her movements deliberate and calm. Major, I've been preparing for this moment since I first detected the object. I know some people will call me crazy, others will say I'm a traitor. But if I'm right about the timeline, We have less than 39 hours to organize some kind of response. 39 hours to warn people, to evacuate population centers, to prepare whatever defenses we might have. The F-22 touched down smoothly, and Alina immediately noticed the unusual activity around the base. Military police vehicles surrounded their aircraft before they'd even come to a complete stop. Colonel Martinez was waiting near the hangar, his expression unreadable. Standing beside him were several men in dark suits, the kind of people who appeared when situations moved beyond military jurisdiction into realms of national security. Phoenix, I think we've attracted some attention. Good. If I'm wrong about this object, I'll accept whatever consequences come my way. But if I'm right, these people need to hear the truth. Alina powered down her aircraft and opened the canopy, immediately noticing the tension in the air. Colonel Martinez approached, his face showing the strain of someone caught between competing loyalties. Major Vasquez, Dr. Chen, please step away from the aircraft. You'll be debriefed separately. One of the suited men stepped forward. Dr. Chen, I'm Agent Harrison, NSA. You're under arrest for theft of classified materials and unauthorized disclosure of state secrets. You have the right to remain silent. Agent Harrison, Alina interrupted. Dr. Chen's research indicates an imminent threat to national security. I recommend immediate consultation with Space Command and NORAD authorities before proceeding with any arrests. Agent Harrison's expression remained neutral, but Alina caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Major, your concerns are noted. However, Dr. Chen has been under investigation for several weeks. Her claims about extraterrestrial objects have been reviewed and determined to be unsubstantiated. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her scientist's mind apparently overriding any survival instincts. Agent Harrison, have you personally reviewed the orbital mechanics data? Have you consulted with any astrophysicists outside the military chain of command? Because if you haven't, then you're making decisions based on politics rather than science. Dr. Chen, please remain quiet until your attorney arrives. Alina felt the situation slipping away from rational discourse toward bureaucratic containment. Colonel Martinez, I need to speak with you privately. Now. The colonel nodded toward a nearby hangar. Agent Harrison, give us 5 minutes. The major is still under military jurisdiction. Inside the hangar, surrounded by maintenance equipment and parked aircraft, Colonel Martinez looked older than Alina had ever seen him. Alina, you've put me in an impossible position. Dr. Chen's claims about this object have been creating panic at the highest levels of government for weeks. Sir, panic about the object itself, or panic about the implications of Dr. Chen being right? Both. If her calculations are correct, we're facing a threat that makes every previous military conflict irrelevant. If she's wrong, she's caused massive disruption of national security operations and created international incidents with her unauthorized communications to foreign space agencies. Alina studied her commanding officer's face, reading years of shared military experience in his expression. Colonel, what do your instincts tell you about Dr. Chen's data? My instincts tell me that Phoenix has never been wrong about anything important in her entire career. My orders tell me to let the NSA handle this situation and keep my mouth shut. Colonel Martinez walked to a hangar window, staring out at the F-22 where Dr. Chen was being questioned by federal agents. Alina, I've been in the Air Force for 32 years. I've seen bureaucrats make decisions that cost lives, and I've seen good officers destroyed for challenging the wrong people at the wrong time. Sir, are you suggesting I should have ignored Dr. Chen's warnings? I'm suggesting that sometimes doing the right thing and following orders are mutually exclusive. And when that happens, good officers have to choose what they can live with. Alina joined him at the window, watching Dr. Chen patiently explaining her data to skeptical federal agents. Colonel, if there's even a possibility that she's right, Don't we have an obligation to take her seriously? Of course we do. But Alina, there are forces at work here that go beyond military protocol. Dr. Chen has been trying to contact international space agencies, warning foreign governments about this object. From a national security perspective, that's treason regardless of her motivations. Alina felt the pieces clicking together in her mind. Unless the object represents a threat to everyone, not just the United States, in which case, warning other countries would be the rational thing to do. Colonel Martinez turned away from the window. Alina, I can't officially tell you this, but Dr. Chen isn't the only scientist who's detected this object. We've had discreet communications from Russian, Chinese, and European space agencies. Everyone's seeing the same data, but no one wants to be the first to acknowledge it publicly. Because acknowledging it means admitting we can't stop it. Because acknowledging it means admitting that everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe was wrong. Outside the hangar, Alina could see Dr. Chen being escorted toward a government sedan. The scientist caught Alina's eye through the window and nodded slightly, a gesture that seemed to convey both gratitude and resignation. Alina made her third critical decision of the day. Colonel, I need to make some phone calls, unofficial calls, to people who might be interested in Dr. Chen's research. Alina, don't do anything that will compromise your career further. You've already pushed the boundaries of acceptable behavior. Sir, if Dr. Chen is right, careers won't matter much longer. If she's wrong, I'll accept whatever consequences come my way. Colonel Martinez studied Alina's face for a long moment, apparently seeing something that reminded him of his own younger self. Alina, if you're determined to pursue this, be very careful who you trust. Not everyone in the chain of command has the country's best interests at heart. Alina spent the next 2 hours making carefully worded phone calls to contacts throughout the aerospace industry and scientific community. She spoke with former academy classmates now working for NASA, defense contractors with access to classified satellite data, and retired Air Force personnel who transitioned to civilian space research. The pattern that emerged was disturbing. Multiple sources had detected anomalous objects in deep space, but information was being compartmentalized and suppressed at every level. Dr. Marcus Webb, a former Air Force colonel now working for SpaceX, was particularly forthcoming. Alina, we've been tracking 3 separate objects for the past 6 months. The trajectories are impossible according to known physics, and they all appear to be converging on Earth. Elon's been trying to get official confirmation from NASA, but everyone's been stonewalled. Marcus, are you saying there are multiple objects? At least 3, possibly more. The one Dr. Chen detected is the largest and closest, but there are others following similar trajectories. Alina, this isn't random, it's coordinated. Alina felt her worldview shifting again. A single anomalous object might be explained as natural phenomena, but multiple objects suggested intelligence and purpose. Marcus, what kind of response capabilities do we have? Honestly, nothing that would matter against objects that size moving at those velocities. Our best anti-satellite weapons might scratch the paint. Nukes might break them into smaller pieces, but that could make the situation worse, not better. What about evacuation procedures, warning systems? Alina, if these objects impact populated areas, we're looking at casualties in the hundreds of millions. There's no evacuation plan that could handle that scale of disaster. Alina thanked Dr. Webb and ended the call, feeling the weight of knowledge settling on her shoulders. Dr. Chen wasn't just right about one object. She'd apparently detected the leading edge of something much larger. Alina tried calling the NSA facility where Dr. Chen was being held, but was told the scientist was in protective custody and unavailable for communication. That evening, Alina sat in her base quarters, staring at files and photographs covering every surface of her small apartment. Pictures of her daughter's school plays, commendation letters from grateful commanding officers, award ceremonies where she'd been recognized for exceptional service. All of it seemed trivial now compared to the possibility that civilization itself might end within the next 36 hours. Her secure phone rang at 200 hours. Colonel Martinez's voice was tight with stress. "Alina, Dr. Chen escaped NSA custody 3 hours ago. She overpowered 2 agents and disappeared with all her research materials. Every federal agency is looking for her, and they're treating this as a matter of national security." "Colonel, how does an astrophysicist overpower trained NSA agents?" "Apparently, everyone forgot that she's also a decorated combat veteran with advanced tactical training. Alina, there's something else. Satellite imagery shows unusual activity at several international space facilities. The Russians are fueling their heavy-lift rockets, the Chinese have gone to highest alert status, and the European Space Agency has called an emergency session." Alina felt a mixture of fear and validation. If international space agencies were mobilizing resources, Dr. Chen's warnings were being taken seriously by someone. "Sir, what are our orders regarding Dr. Chen?" "Officially, locate and apprehend. Unofficially, Alina, I think Dr. Chen might be humanity's best hope of preparing for what's coming." "Colonel, are you suggesting I should help her evade federal authorities?" The phone line was quiet for several seconds. "Alina, I'm suggesting that sometimes the most patriotic thing an officer can do is disobey orders. Dr. Chen is trying to save lives, not endanger them. Use your judgment." Alina ended the call and immediately began packing emergency supplies. If Dr. Chen was on the run with critical data about incoming objects, she would need support from people who understood both military operations and aerospace technology. Alina had an idea about where the scientist might go, but reaching her would require resources and connections that could end Alina's career permanently. Dr. Chen had vanished into the Colorado wilderness with nothing but her research data and survival training from her military days. Federal authorities assumed she would head for populated areas where she could access communication equipment or seek help from civilian allies. They were wrong. Phoenix had learned long ago that the best place to hide was where no one expected to look. She'd studied topographical maps during her months of research at NORAD, identifying remote locations with natural shelter and access to high-elevation positions suitable for radio communication. The abandoned mining facility 30 miles northwest of Colorado Springs met all her requirements: shelter, elevation, and most importantly, complete isolation from federal search patterns. The mine had been closed since the 1970s, but its buildings remained structurally sound, and its elevation provided clear lines of sight to satellites. Dr. Chen spent her first night setting up a makeshift communications center using equipment she'd hidden in various locations during the weeks before her escape. Solar panels charged her laptop batteries, and a jury-rigged antenna array gave her access to both civilian and military communication frequencies. Her first priority was confirming the object's current position and trajectory. 8 months of observations had established a clear pattern, but the object's intelligent course corrections meant constant monitoring was essential. Dr. Chen's calculations now showed impact in 32 hours and 14 minutes, sooner than her original estimates. Working through the night by flashlight and laptop screen, Dr. Chen refined her impact models using the most current data. The object would strike the Pacific Ocean approximately 180 miles west of Seattle. The initial impact would generate tsunamis affecting the entire Pacific coastline, but the secondary effects would be far worse. Atmospheric debris would create global climate disruption lasting years, potentially decades. As dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Chen established contact with Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the Japanese Space Agency. The conversation was brief but illuminating. Japan had been tracking the same object and had reached similar conclusions about impact timing and location. More importantly, Dr. Tanaka confirmed that Japanese deep space monitoring stations had detected additional objects following similar trajectories. Dr. Chen, our government has been debating disclosure protocols for weeks. The public panic could be devastating, but the impact effects will be catastrophic regardless. We estimate global casualties in excess of 2 billion people. Dr. Tanaka, have you been able to establish any communication with the objects? Any indication of intelligent control? Negative on communication, but the trajectory adjustments are clearly artificial. These objects are responding to our planet's orbital mechanics in real time. Dr. Chen, this is not a natural phenomenon. Dr. Chen ended the transmission as her laptop detected aircraft approaching from the south. Through binoculars, she identified two F-22 Raptors flying search patterns approximately 15 miles away. Federal authorities were expanding their search area, but they were still focusing on populated regions rather than wilderness locations. Her satellite phone buzzed with an encrypted text message from an unknown number. Phoenix, this is Nightfall. Your research is being validated by multiple sources. Need to coordinate response efforts. Can you receive secure communications? Dr. Chen smiled despite their desperate situation. Major Vasquez had apparently decided to risk her career helping rather than simply following orders. Phoenix quickly composed a reply. Nightfall, secure channel Alpha 779. Current position safe but temporary. Multiple objects confirmed by international sources. Time remaining 31 hours 47 minutes. Alina received Dr. Chen's message while sitting in her personal vehicle outside Peterson Air Force Base. She'd taken emergency leave, citing family medical issues, but Colonel Martinez knew exactly what she was doing. Her encrypted satellite communication system, a piece of equipment that officially didn't exist, provided secure contact with Dr. Chen and other aerospace professionals who were beginning to coordinate independent response efforts. Phoenix, this is Nightfall. I've been in contact with SpaceX, NASA contractors, and international partners. Everyone's seeing the same data, but official response has been limited to evacuation planning for Pacific coastal areas. No one's addressing the long-term atmospheric effects. Nightfall, evacuation planning assumes people have somewhere to go. When this object impacts, nowhere on Earth will be safe from secondary effects. We need to focus on survival infrastructure, food storage, medical supplies, power generation systems that can operate independently. Alina studied maps spread across her vehicle's dashboard, trying to identify locations that might survive the coming catastrophe. Military installations with underground facilities, NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Complex, remote research stations with independent power systems. Phoenix, what about warning the general population? Don't people deserve to know what's coming? Nightfall, I've been wrestling with that question for months. Warning everyone could save some lives, but it could also cause panic that prevents organized response efforts. We need to focus on maximizing survival for as many people as possible. Alina's radio crackled with an urgent transmission from Colonel Martinez. Nightfall, immediate return to base. Federal authorities have issued a warrant for your arrest as a co-conspirator with Dr. Chen. You have approximately 20 minutes before they reach your current location. Alina started her engine and pulled onto the highway, heading toward the mountains where Dr. Chen was hiding. Phoenix, federal authorities are closing in on both of us. We need to consolidate our efforts and get this information to people who can act on it. Nightfall, I have an idea, but it's going to require trust and resources we might not have. There's a former Air Force facility in Wyoming that was decommissioned in the 1990s, but still has functional communications equipment. If we can reach it, we might be able to establish contact with every space agency and military installation in the world simultaneously. Alina checked her fuel gauge and calculated driving time to Wyoming. 6 hours through mountain terrain, assuming federal roadblocks didn't intercept them. Phoenix, send me coordinates. I'm en route to your location now. Nightfall, are you certain about this? Helping me will end your military career and possibly result in federal prosecution. Elena thought about her daughter, probably sitting in math class right now, worried about pop quizzes and homework assignments while unaware that her world was about to change forever. Phoenix, some things are more important than careers. Dr. Chen watched Elena's vehicle approach the mining facility through binoculars, confirming the major was traveling alone before revealing her position. The two women met inside the abandoned mine's main building, surrounded by decades-old equipment and filtered sunlight streaming through broken windows. Major, thank you for coming. I know this wasn't an easy decision. Doctor, call me Elena, and you were right about everything: multiple objects, international confirmation, coordinated approach patterns. The only question now is what we can do about it. Dr. Chen spread her laptop and research materials across a makeshift table constructed from mining equipment. Elena, I need to show you something that changes everything. The objects aren't just approaching Earth, they're decelerating. Look at these velocity measurements from the past 72 hours. Elena studied the data, her engineering background allowing her to understand the implications immediately. Objects moving at interstellar velocities don't naturally decelerate when approaching planets. They either impact or pass by, following the laws of physics that govern all natural phenomena. Intelligent deceleration suggested purpose and control. Phoenix, are you telling me these objects are slowing down intentionally? Not just slowing down, positioning themselves for optimal impact effects. The primary object will hit deep ocean, maximizing tsunami generation. The secondary objects appear targeted at specific continental locations. Elena, this isn't random destruction, it's systematic. Elena felt cold spreading through her chest despite the warm mountain air. Systematic destruction suggests intelligence. Are we looking at some kind of attack? Or some kind of test? Elena, what if these objects aren't weapons but instruments? What if something is studying our planet's responses to global catastrophe? The implications were staggering. Elena had trained for combat against human enemies using conventional weapons and tactics. The possibility of facing non-human intelligence using incomprehensible technology was beyond anything her military experience had prepared her for. Phoenix, if you're right about this being some kind of test, what happens if we pass? What happens if we fail? I don't know, but I know that sitting here discussing possibilities isn't going to save anyone. Elena, we need to get to that Wyoming facility and warn everyone we can reach. 29 hours and 38 minutes. Elena helped Dr. Chen pack her equipment, noting how the scientist's hands remained steady despite the magnitude of their situation. Military training created automatic responses to crisis situations, focus on immediate tasks, maintain operational security, complete the mission regardless of personal cost. Both women understood these principles instinctively. Phoenix, the facility in Wyoming. What kind of communications capabilities are we talking about? Full-spectrum radio, satellite uplinks, emergency broadcast systems that can override civilian and military networks simultaneously. It was designed as a backup command center during the Cold War. If we can get it operational, we can reach every government, military installation, and space agency on the planet within hours. Elena secured the last of the equipment in her vehicle, checking fuel and supplies for the journey ahead. Phoenix, once we broadcast this information, there's no going back. We'll be committing to a course of action that could cause global panic. Elena, global panic might be preferable to global extinction. At least panic gives people a chance to survive. The drive through Colorado's mountain wilderness provided time for both women to process the reality of their situation. Alina had spent her entire adult life serving her country within established command structures, following orders and trusting that military leadership would make appropriate decisions. Now, she was driving toward potential treason, carrying data that could destabilize governments worldwide. Dr. Chen navigated while monitoring satellite communications and tracking the approaching objects' positions. Every few minutes, she would announce updated calculations: 28 hours and 42 minutes, 28 hours and 37 minutes. The countdown had become a metronome marking humanity's remaining time. Alina, can I ask you something personal? What made you decide to help me instead of following orders? Alina considered the question while navigating a series of mountain switchbacks. Phoenix, I joined the Air Force because I wanted to serve something larger than myself. I wanted to protect people and defend principles that mattered. When I realized that following orders meant ignoring a threat to everyone I'd sworn to protect, the choice became clear. Even knowing it would end your career. Especially knowing it would end my career. Phoenix, if we're successful, military careers won't matter anymore. If we fail, nothing will matter anymore. Dr. Chen updated her calculations again. 28 hours and 14 minutes. Alina, assuming we reach the Wyoming facility in